Hello guys and welcome to chapter 3. In chapter 3 we're gonna examine the modern h3, h6 move, and I believe the most of you guys here, play knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4, waiting maybe for bishop d6 to take and c5. This is very good line for white and everything, but here we're gonna examine two different lines from black. So my first idea is to take and play bishop f4. Here black has two good moves. That's knight f6 and c6. Let's see first c6. After c6, my idea for this position is to play e3 and wait for bishop d6. After black play bishop d6, we play queen f3. This is kind of new idea in these setups, and with this move, I want to play bishop d3, knight g2, long castle, and just to push pawns on king side like h3, g4, and to attack. So for example, if he plays knight f6, h3, castle, bishop d3, here we can see that I'm already ready to play castle and g4. So it doesn't matter what's black gonna play, we just continue with our idea. Here a5 or a5 after he take, it doesn't matter, we achieve position we are aim for, and we are ready to play long castle, followed by rook dg1 and h4 g5, simply to launch a powerful attack. Also, it's possible to play knight e7. Well, it's kinda is not that logical, maybe more as knight f6, but it's very, very possible to play. So here, my proposition, in the spirit of this course, I want to play aggressive. So I think maybe h4 is the interesting move. Even though, as I mentioned always, it's always possible to play, like normal queen's gambit position, It's a calmer way to play this position, but we want to play aggressive, so I think like h4 is good choice. So idea is very simple, right? We want to push g4, g5. So for example, if he takes on f4, we take bishop f5, we just simply push the pawns. Here, my recommendation is to play rook d1, because, according to engine, if we push here g5, after bishop f5, bishop h3, we have, after knight g2 actually, knight g2, we have here a very good position, it seems very aggressive, but the thing is, computer find here very interesting move, bishop c2. I highly doubt that anyone's gonna play this move, like what's the reason? You need to go very deep into this. And now bishop h3, it's the same, we follow knight g2, knight g3. I think white position is really nice and we have some aggressive setups. But we can always, as I said, we can always, here instead of g5, we can always play rook d1, and have some nice pleasant position, What's the thing is that black needs to decide what he's gonna do with his king, because king is in the center. Especially now after a5, I highly doubt that he's gonna go to long castle, and short castle is also, big question because of g5. So he needs to decide that, and we'll continue to, develop the pieces and try to find the right moment when to push g5. So probably better move for him is to play castle, also engine move. And now the interesting thing is that he needs to find a lot of one-way moves to maintain equality. So for example here I propose bishop d3, but I also analyze, for example, moves like g4. And what I hate about this move is that in any moment we push g5 here or after one castle, the only defense, always the only defense for black is to sacrifice pawn with h5. So this is something black needs to see before castle, and it's not simple to find such a moves over the board. So for example, you can see it here, if white goes to long castle and play like this, and this moment it seems that like white is like winning, but actually it's not. Again that h5 defense. So after we take, he'll definitely go seek for some counterplay, and according to engine, black has enough counterplay, but still he needs to find a lot of precise moves here. So he can maintain equality while we also have, h5, g6, h6 threats. My second move I analyzed also not only g4, I analyze h5, you know, to see what is happening now. And I must say that after c5 we have pleasant position, because now I'm not gonna push g4, you know, I'm just gonna play like this positionally. d5 is big weakness, and this is definitely worth position to be played. But the thing is, after h5 he must play here bishop e6, just like on g4 when he needs to play c5, on h5 he needs to play bishop e6. And at the end of a long variation, he needs to find c4 here, and after bishop f1, f5 to prevent g4. And like this, he can have some counterplay. Otherwise, position is very, very hard for black. So as you can see, it's not easy to find all of these moves over the board. But it's on you, guys. Do you want to try g4 or h5? It's on you. I think maybe the bishop d3 is the best move. The thing is that again black needs to find only move, since now we again want to push g4, g5. According to Agent, the best move to survive this position is bishop f5. And after we exchange the bishops, knight e6, g4, long castle, and as you can see we have pleasant position. I mean, black is okay, black is solid, but our goal is to open g file and create the attack. So I think maybe this is the, you know, position with, of all positions, maybe with lesser risk. We don't have here big risk, and we just want to play, you know, simple position. And if we can open g file and win the game, we're gonna win. If black can find all the best defensive motifs, at least we have some normal equal position without huge risk. It's not like everything is hanging on the board. So that's kinda that with this here e3 variation, bishop d6, queen f3. Also, it's possible here to play bishop f5. You know, black is aiming to trade light square bishops. You know, just like in Queen's Gambit, the more pieces you trade, it's kind of easier for black. But here I have two interesting suggestions for you, but actually kind of get to the same way. So one of them is to play g4, h4, and like this, knight h3. And here we're following some online game between Amtu Sartomova and Osma Kyulia. And here I propose interesting improvement, rook g1, with the same ideas as we saw on bishop d6. So queen f3, long castle, and trying to find the right moment to push g5. So g4 is definitely an interesting way of aggressive play, but my proposition here is to play f3. We simply want to prepare the pawn storm and gaining a space advantage on king side, you know. I believe that in right moment we need to push king, we need to move the king on f2, and I believe he's gonna be safe there. Okay, so probably knight f6 here is the best move, since if we play bishop d6, you know, now we change strategy and we push e4. If black forgets for that, we can, you know, achieve very strong center, you know. The position is here close to equal. I mean, we have slightly better position, but of course, as I said, black needs to find a lot of precise move to maintain, you know, such a positions like this. It's really unpleasant for black. So maybe here black should play knight f6, you know, preventing e4, developing a move. And we now continue with this pawn storm, as we said. Queen e7, and now e3 is target. So I said in some moment we need to play king f2, king will be safe there, you know. Just like this kind of position reminds a lot of in Slav defense, you know, when they play bishop d2, knight g3, f3, g4, and they move the king to f2. So I think the king here is pretty safe. Knight a6, and this position Juvenile took on d6, which is okay, position is equal, you know, but there's still a lot of play, a lot of moves to be played, you know, equal doesn't mean to draw. But I think improvement over her game is to play g5. The point is that if she play knight h5 here, taken bishop h3, and as you can see, there is no possible to go in any castle. Bishop g4 is also one of the threats, so knight h5 would be here huge mistake. Knight d7 is kinda logical move, and I believe Juvenile saw this position when she played, but maybe she missed here rook c1, and this is very important move, you know. We delay a long castle and we prepare bishop h3. Why long castle is not possible? Well, if here our opponent go long castle, we have simply knight d5. So instead of that, black needs to lose some time playing on knight c7, and now we take and play bishop h3. So now we take the control of this diagonal, and black doesn't have nothing better than going to long castle. Position seems very natural, very nice, but here I found very interesting move, engine suggestion, queen g1. I think this is very beautiful move, because after we trade the queens, we have much better chances on the king side, Black can't avoid this trading because if you avoid in some moment, I don't know, like queen e7 or something like that, I think it's gonna allow us to take knight d5 in some moment, and that will be really bad for black. So in some moment, he probably need to accept this queen exchange. We're gonna take with the knight, and we have so many ideas, depends on how we're gonna black play. Maybe some moment e4, maybe f4, f5, maybe knight h5, maybe simply to take on h6, open g file. If he takes, we can open h file. So according to engine, we have slightly better position, but that's the kind of positions I like to play. Sometimes we can always play aggressively. That's something I want in this course, but sometimes our opponent doesn't allow that, and we simply need to play slow position and slowly build up position, and when we get a chance to suffocate our opponent. So that's kind of with bishop f5 and this generally c6 move. I think it's much easier to play for white. So here maybe better move for him is to play first knight f6. And after e3, bishop d6. So he didn't waste time on playing c6, and that's kinda okay. And I must say in this position, recently, a former world chess champion, challenger, Lei, she played here queen f3 and bishop d3 with, our usual ideas we saw against c6 setup. So we want again to play h3, knight g2, g4. But here black saved the tempo. He didn't play c6, so maybe in some moment he can react with fast c5, and I think black would be okay. So instead of that, I propose that we take and play the setup with an knight g2. I mean, position reminds a lot of our, Queen's Gambit setup, obviously, and we will not play that much positionally as you think now, because my knight is not on f3, as in previous example, and if the knight is on f3, then I can say, okay, we have slow position and we slowly build up. But here with knight g2, I obviously telling my opponent that if he allows me that I'm gonna prepare f3, e4. So let's see a few options here. b6 is completely normal move. Black wants to trade the white square bishops. And after knight f4, black here has two options, either to follow his idea with bishop a6 or to play knight a6. If you play bishop a6, my proposition is to take and play next structure. We're gonna see c6, rook a7, e5. So this is very flexible structure, for the black. But the thing is the fact that this c6 is always gonna be weakness, Maybe in some moment he can play c5 and to play with hanging pawns, but he needs to be very careful with that, especially after we play rook fd1. We will not allow him that easily to do such a thing. So if you, for example, here play knight bd7, I think that after this position, we have very beautiful position. Knight e2, knight d3, another knight to f3. In some moment, maybe to transfer the queen here to f5 as a Queen's Gambit. So we have very flexible position and we have a lot of ideas. He needs to constantly take care about these pawns. Meanwhile, we can continue improving our position. And maybe in some moment, even when we transfer queen there, maybe we can even push g4, h4. The same idea we can use even with knight on a6. I think we have more than one good way to play this position. And probably one of them ways definitely to play rook d2, rook c2 as we saw. But actually in this position, I want to place my queen to f5, which is well-known idea from Queen's Gambit structures. When we have the bishop on d3, then we play usually bishop d3, bishop f5. Simply taking the control over, c8 square, and that help us on many things, but one of them is to to try to control c5. So after rook f8, queen f5, according to agent, we have slightly better position. But, you know, that's the point. The point is that we want some, you know, a position like this slowly build up. You see, rook d2, rook c2, knight e4, knight d3, knight e5. There's nothing wrong with this position, you know. What I love also about this queen, she controls everything, you know. Maybe she's gonna also help to knight d3, knight f5, provoking some g6, some weaknesses around king. So generally, I think this is very nice position for white, and I definitely long our long-term chances in this position. Black is the one who needs to be much more careful. Okay. It's also possible to play bishop e7. No one said that black needs only to play bishop a6, but then again I can play queen f3. This constantly relatively new idea, you know. So here black has few choices, and I must say that after c5 it's not easy position to be played for black, you know. Knight c6 is not possible to develop because it simply blundered the pawn. C takes d4 is also, in my opinion, bad move because, you know, after knight b5 we take, there's d5 weakness. Usually when you have isolated pawn, you need to attack. Here I don't see any attack, so it's just gonna be, you know, risk-free position. We play against isolated pawn, no attack. So according to agent, he should play rook d8, d1, and now knight c6. I mean, the difference is obvious. The knight d5 is not hanging, but the thing is, we can here play normal chess, but I think the most chances we get if we enter into this endgame, I want to show you here. So yeah, position is very close to equal here, guys, but I must say it's not easy. For example, if we play rook c5, just as example, he needs to play only this active move to save the game, you know, to be active. So I must say it's not easy to find all of these moves, but if black finds it, he has good chance, you know, to save the endgame. So instead of rook c5, I think maybe a little bit more unpleasant move for black is rook a d1. So I still want to play rook c5, but I don't want to allow him rook d8. In this version, he needs to play f6, support square for the knight. But after rook d6, you know, we're gonna slowly prepare this pawn storm h3, f4 to remove this knight from e5, take on c4. And I think our winning chances, you know, are really good. Yes, black has two pieces for the rook, but after we take on c4, we're gonna have like 6 pawns, he's gonna have 4, so that's literally 2 pawns for this, and I believe that's good for us. So we are slightly better to engine, but if black just mistake one move, just one bad move, his position can completely collapse. Okay, so knight a6 is also here interesting move, you know, simply to transfer the knight to e6 over c7 square, which is simply fine. And on knight a6, I would suggest here to not trade these knights, to trade knight from f6. Because knight on f6 is, my opinion, you know, a little bit more active, and when it comes to c5, d5 will be a little bit more target. So c5 is obviously not possible. So after a5, rook fd1, you know, we're following the same ideas as we saw before. You know, we're gonna double the rooks, transfer the knight, slowly build up our position, and I think generally looking, or practically speaking, I like our long-term chances. Black is solid, but I think we have a little bit, you know, more comfortable position. So that's with b6. That's with b6. Interesting, definitely structures arises. a6 is also possible, played my good friend, Grandmaster Drašković Luka from Montenegro. So his idea is to play knight c6, knight c6 and knight e7. Generally famous plan in this type of positions. So even though Petrov follow our idea here, this was their position, you know, with mutual chances. Even though he followed my original idea on b6, I think here we can change the setup, and I will suggest you another approach. So instead of put the knight on f4, I want to put on g3. Now you're gonna see why. After this position, knight g3. So I'm controlling f5 square, and I want to prepare f3 e4. That's my idea. So for example, he can play like this, you know, some computer moves developing. And in this moment, I want to play bishop b1, preparing the battery, you know, and slowly prepare f3, e4. I'm not sure can black react with c5 in the right moment, but I believe, you know, that if we want to succeed with f3, e4 plan, we first need to stop that c5. So for example, my idea can be queen c2, like, I don't know, maybe threatening some knight h5 ideas, maybe some moment b4. So it depends on how it's gonna black play, but according to engine, we have slightly better position, and it definitely feels like that, you know, especially after we control this f5 square. So it's not easy for black to find the square for this knight. So maybe the best move for black is rook e8 and knight bd7, but even here, we can play queen d2 and prepare f3, for that's kinda, I think, the whole point of this setup. So I can achieve that only if I play like with this setup with knight g2 without queen f3. When I play queen f3, my only setup is to play knight f4, h3, g4. When I save it, playing immediately knight g2, I obviously want to play queen d2, preparing f3, 4. So for example, knight f8, rook c1, c6 looks here completely normal move, but black will wait. After f3, we're gonna succeed on e4 much faster. So queen e7 is not possible due to e4, and now I just want to play knight g3, bishop b1, and e4. I must also to play bishop b1 is not that much about battery, how much is not we don't hang on d4 after e4, d takes e4. So queen e7, stopping f3, but after rook f1 and knight f4, once again I want to play f3. But only here we need to be a little bit, because if you play here f3, he can take and play queen b4, you know, get with tempo here to attack on d4, maybe trade rook bishop d7. It seems the black has some counterplay. Our position is still preferable, but why to allow that when we can simply play bishop b1 and wait? So if now he play bishop d7, f3, that's the whole point. That's the whole point, and d4 is coming, and he can prevent it. And if he, for example, takes and play queen d6, and that's now the point. Now that's the point I want to show you. We don't now have f3, e4, but we have e5 square, which is also important in symmetrical structure. Here it's not symmetrical structure, but the principle is the same. We want control over e5 square. Rook e5, very beautiful outpost on open file. Bishop e6, h3, and rook e1, g4 is coming. Once again, we have positionally nice position. We just can turn very quickly to attacking position, because after g4, a lot of moves are possible. f5, g5, and so on. So kind of that's guys with this chapter 3, you know, we saw some interesting idea. I think after knight f6 arises a little bit more positional. Of course, if I can play aggressively, I'm gonna play aggressively, but generally the more aggression position I have if the black plays c6 with queen f3. I think the setup is very simple. You don't need to learn a lot of there's not a lot of theory. It's basically kind of relatively new idea. You just want to go to long castle, you know, and push g4, g5. So that's with this line, and I'm looking forward to show you the next idea I found against h6, and I'll see you in chapter 4.